Hello, Dumaguete.
Hello, Negros Oriental.
Hello, Sillimanians around the world.
This is Joshua Soldivillo.
And this is Ronelyn Vailoces-Not.
You are watching
Silliman. Good evening, everyone. This is a magazine program that talks about different aspects of Silliman University.
A program initiated to discuss different matters concerning the campus by the sea. You're watching Silliman. Hey there, Sillimanians and friends of Silliman around the world. Good evening and dagang salamat for joining another episode of Silliman. We thank you for making us as your Monday night company. And of course, Ronelyn, last week we actually had different church activities in line with the season of Lent, and we congratulate all the organizers, all the leaders and managers in the Silliman Church for successfully spearheading our Lenten season activities. And speaking of leaders and managers, Ron, there's this one academic unit in the university that actually molds and prepares future public servants or public workers, or if not, public leaders. I'm talking about the School of Public Affairs and Governance, and we are joined by two of its members tonight.
Yes, that's right, Josh. And to represent the student body, ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome one of our guests for tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a fourth-year Foreign Affairs student, Mr. Aaron Kyle de la Gente. Hello, Aaron. Welcome to Silliman.
Thank you.
All right, good evening, Aaron. And of course, we are joined as well by the Dean of the School of Public Affairs and Governance. Napaka-pogi, Ron, no?
True.
We have Dr.
Youthful.
Ferdinand Marcos Mangibin. Doc Ferdy, welcome to the show. It's always a pleasure to have you here, sir.
Yes, thank you very much, Josh and Ronelyn, for this invitation. And good evening to all our viewers.
Ayun. So, Ronelyn, we have been, of course, napaka-busy, no? Because aside from it's supposed to be a break, we also did a lot of church activities on our own. At the same time, we also celebrated with the Silliman University Church and of course to its congregation. But let's talk about here our guests from the School of Public Affairs and Governance. Because Ron, if you check their website, at the Silliman University website, what really, the thing that will capture there is their parang tagline, mine, or positional statement, or how you call it, Dr. Ferdy?
Yes, we have our position statement.
Position statement, which says that
correct. Thought leader,
a thought leader
with a conscience, and practical conduct.
So, can you expound on this, Doc Ferdy?
Well, our mission is to really cater to the needs of our students who are future leaders of our government. And therefore, we don't train them only for knowledge, but also for conduct, practical conduct.
Right.
So that's why we have that idea of calculative thinking and meditative thinking.
Right. Dr. Ferdy, who is a thought leader?
Well, a thought leader is always one who is a leader with compassion,
Ayun.
with justice, and all the virtues that a leader could do in a certain commitment.
Right.
Especially, well, it could be also in private or in public services.
And that is also consistent with Silliman University's mission and vision, right? For a total human development, right? A holistic individual. And when we talk about this practical conduct, what are the expectations of, does this talk about more on ethical obedience or adherence to standards or policies?
Yes, perfectly, because our Silliman is a Christian institution.
Right.
And we are expecting our graduates to be virtuous, Christian virtues of love, compassion, and justice.
Yeah,
And that's for humanity and of course for the environment.
Yeah.
So it's not just about the intelligence, but we are also honing their hearts, no, and
Yes.
theory and practice. Now, I'd like to ask Aaron, you're a fourth-year Foreign Affairs student. So, of all the courses that are available for you, why did you choose Foreign Affairs?
Well, it wasn't actually a personal choice because at first I was really confused on what to take after graduating high school. But when I was introduced to the Silliman University School of Public Affairs and Governance, especially the course BS in Foreign Affairs, it gave an interest in me, not only because I want to have a perspective of the world, but I'm also curious on how the world works. But that's my previous perception of how it was. But when I was put into the course, in my 4 years in that journey, I didn't only gain the perspective that I wanted, but I also saw things not only in the administrative work, but also those people who are in need of our help, especially those Filipinos who are working abroad.
Right.
Because there are students who only know about this course just because it sounds fancy and all. But when you get enrolled in this course, you are introduced to the realities of how the people working in that field actually work, and seeing the reality of, especially for a 21st century person, it's not that vibrant. It's full of gloom. But when we are there, we're not only sacrificing ourselves for our country, but we're also giving ourselves for the people.
Right.
So that's how not only a holistic person would say it, but everyone who is willing to help the people abroad, not only our kababayans, but also those who need our assistance. And we can also apply it here in our country in
True.
practice.
So a very relevant course, Ron, as we
much.
also expand, no? Because we have globalization, so
Yes.
we're becoming one community, so to speak. Dr. Mangibin, hearing Aaron, no, it's actually very impressive, no? Thinking about this commitment to help people, to help kababayans abroad. This entails so much preparation, and for example, structural preparation. So, Dr. Mangibin, right now, what is the structure of the School of Public Affairs and Governance? Who are the people that you lead and manage?
Well, there are, of course, several programs, one of which is the Foreign Affairs
Okay.
Department, headed by no other than Ambassador Dr. Corsino.
Wow.
He is the chairperson of the department.
Wow.
And he gathers different faculty members to help in the honing of our students.
So that's one. You have the Foreign Affairs program.
Yes. We also have our public administration,
Public
BS
administration.
Public Administration. And yes, there are two undergrad programs, and we have 6 graduate programs.
Wow. 6 graduate. Can you name this, Doc Ferdy?
Well, the first graduate program, which originally under the Polsa in History Department, was the Master in Public Administration. And in 2009, when SPAG was organized by Dr. Reynaldo Rivera, there are already several graduate programs such as DPA, Doctor in Public
So,
Administration.
so MPA, DPA,
DPA. We have PhD in Social Science.
Social Science,
We have also Master in Public Health.
MPH.
We have Master in Hospital Administration.
Wow.
And the new one was approved last year is the PhD in Public Administration.
Ayun.
PHPA.
So
PhD
what
PA.
is now the difference, Doc Ferdy, between the DPA and the PhD in Public Administration?
Well, that's a very nice question. It has been asked by many. Well, the DPA, this is actually for professionals, those who are
Ayun.
working in the government.
Right.
While the PhD is also open to the academy.
Academic.
Yes.
So essentially, it's more on your background, no?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, Dr. Ferdinand, last month we celebrated the International Women's Month. And in public administration, it is very important that we talk about gender equity or gender equality. How do we inculcate or promote gender sensitivity in our academic offerings?
Well, that's a very good question because I teach also Oriental philosophy, where gender is also a very relevant topic. So, in terms of philosophy, whether you are talking about Western or Eastern philosophies,
Right.
gender should be seen as relevant to all of them, especially our students. And there are several subjects also where gender sensitivity should be integrated, I should say, especially because they will be working eventually as public servants, and they should also appreciate this concept of gender.
Yes, because this is like a social profession, no? You'll be dealing with people. And Aaron, speaking of dealing with other people, aside from the classroom experience that you have, of course, in Silliman we have the 5 C's, one of which is community and perhaps church or the culture. How has been your experience as a BS Foreign Affairs students? Are you into these organizations? Have you been into community work so far?
In my 4 years experience, first of all, the pandemic happened and it did limit my engagement on the campus itself.
Right. So first year, ano pa, face to
no.
face.
Yeah, first year, yes. We had a
Face-to-face,
face-to-face class.
yeah.
However, that didn't limit my termination to also engage in classes because our school has been really active during the pandemic. The department has been engaged in many partnership organizations and such events that not only limit us in the online setting, but some of us were also engaged in activities. Some of my classmates were here in Duma. During Typhoon Odette, Spag was one of those people who helped.
Okay.
Meanwhile, during my first year experience, I also I didn't really know about this 5Cs thing because I'm not a Sillimanian before. But when I was introduced to it, the interest was I didn't really grasp it. But when these students who were from Silliman, who happened to be in SPAG, introduced me to this life, I find it engaging. It's enjoyed. I mean, I enjoyed a lot in that experience. And now as a fourth-year student, SPAG has also been doing a lot of things. We have been conducting some events, especially we're inviting speakers from different areas.
Wow.
We're inviting people from different colleges to hear what the SPAG thing is all about. And not only that, but they can be introduced to a lot of people who have good credentials, who have a lot of things to say about relevant topics. Recently, we had speakers from, I think she was from Manila. She was talking about climate change. So we also invited a lot of people to join. So yeah, that's been a worthwhile experience for me that I'd like to share to the lower years, but if they were able to engage more again in the following years.
Yeah, that's wonderful, Ron. At least they're not only limited to the four walls of the classroom, so to speak, right? They also enrich, expand, and of course, learn more, no? Especially from external resources as well.
That's true, Josh. And we are preparing them to become leaders, so they must be well-rounded. Now, I have been meaning to ask this, Josh, earlier, supposed to be. No, of course, some of the colleges that we invited here, we often ask them about the misconceptions about their courses, perhaps, no? Because this is not a misconception, but just a stereotyping that whenever I hear that you're a student of foreign affairs, you must be intelligent, you must have the command of the language.
Well versed to the letter of
Yeah,
the law.
That's
Diba?
true. So what are there negative or misconceptions against the students from SPAG, and how do we address these misconceptions? And I think that that question is addressed to Dr. Mangibin. Sige, Aaron, let's first ask about the misconceptions that you heard.
Yeah, we do get that a lot, but it's not only limited on the intelligence stereotyping, but there's also this foreign affairs equals flight attendant stereotyping.
Okay. Foreign...
FA.
yun nga.
FA kasi.
Okay. That's a joke. Okay.
Okay.
So, BS Foreign Affairs, flight attendant. Okay.
Yeah,
And
we
then,
do
so
get
what do
that
you
a
do
lot.
about this, Aaron?
Sometimes also people are confused because they have no idea what foreign affairs mean. It just sounds like a jargon, a fancy word. But for us, most of the time, we just say that we work in the DFA diplomacy field. We negotiate and we represent our country in the international setting. And about that intelligence thing, it's not only the visible things that SPAG has been doing lately, but we just keep a humble face. We tell them that it's not only limited to us. There are other people who have these kinds of traits. And not just because SPAG has this label of being well-versed in law. We are really good at communicating, so to speak. But other colleges also possess these traits.
Right.
So that's why we reference sometimes these colleges that MASCOM is also good in communicating. So that doesn't limit SPAG. There's also the Histopolsci department from CAS that also has things to say about the law, and especially the law school. So that's sometimes how we cope with those stereotypes. And there's also prejudices on how we interact with people. Sometimes we look too intimidating just because we speak English. So we adjust. We
But
do
in
just
fairness to
stay with
Aaron,
that.
he really does speak
Yeah, very well.
very good English. Okay. Sir Mangibin, would you like to say something about
How do
this?
you address that?
Well, I am a philosopher. I'm an academician. So, I heard also some of these stereotypes. Prior to me being the, how to say, dean of the School of Public Affairs and Governance, I have several students from both public administration and foreign affairs, in my GE classes and also in philosophy of the human person, and really they perform. But it's the same with all other students. Although, as you mentioned, these are stereotypes,
Yeah.
which I think it should also be, shall we say, stopped from thinking that they
Yeah.
are intelligent and
Right.
beautiful,
It gives him it gives him pressure. No? How about the intimidating part that Aaron mentioned, sir? How do you address that one?
Well, I appreciate their candidness and competitiveness, which I think should a
Necessary.
student is supposed to have.
Yeah.
And I had a chance to teach them Oriental philosophy, and really, there are 24 of them. And I always ask them for participation, and all of them would really participate. And again, it's all the same with other students. Yes.
Right. So, Ron, of course, Aaron mentioned about their future field would be in the diplomatic arena. So, we're just going to pause for a short break, but perhaps when we come back, let's ask Aaron, how does he apply the knowledge and skills that he learns in the classroom when it comes to diplomatic relationship in day-to-day basis? Halimbawa, there's a conflict. Na-apply ba yun? All right. Let's ask Aaron about that when #Silliman returns. Stay with us. Welcome back! You're still watching Hashtag Silliman and we're still joined by our guest from the School of Public Affairs and Governance. Before we took a short break, I actually asked Aaron about how do you apply your knowledge and skills that you actually acquired from your discussions in your foreign affairs courses and classes, of course, from professors to day-to-day basis. Like, for example, you have this, it could be minor conflicts with family members or, let's say, friends. Do you also do that, Aaron?
Yes, prior to being a foreign affairs student, I often act erratically and
Okay.
I sometimes just blurt out.
Okay, very impulsive.
Yeah,
Okay.
but when I was introduced to the theories, the different concepts about diplomacy, it's mostly about negotiating and stopping an all-out conflict with all the violence and hostilities and everything. Now, seeing that into perspective, I applied it when I was back in my place during the pandemic. It did make a difference because now I'm willing to communicate and there's this willingness to have amendments and to compromise if ever there's something wrong. But the argument is still there. You have to really be patient on that
Patient,
matter.
right.
And just because I practice that, that doesn't mean that I can practice that in the work field because it's a long process of self-discovery and self-healing.
Yeah. That is life-changing, isn't
Yeah,
it? Right.
it is. And not only that, we're not only limited to the diplomatic field because we can also go to non-government organizations and IGOs, which has a more broader scope of people. And that means that if you are going to apply those things in the diplomatic field, it's only limited to administrative work. But when you're put into that kind of field where you are sent to different places, let's say, for example, I work in UNICEF, and I've been sent to a place in Africa that has, let's just say, problems that we have to not act erratically
Yeah.
in order to avoid
Plus a different
problems.
cultural context.
Yes.
Right?
So we have to be also culturally holistic and
Yes.
see a bigger picture, not judge the culture just because they look like that.
Right.
So that's how you apply it.
And I
that's
think
how I
this
did
is
it.
also needed, Ron, not only for the foreign affairs student, but by the general public. No?
Just a follow-up question because you mentioned about different concepts and I'd like to really know about this specific. This is not a quiz, ha?
Yes.
But if you can remember all the learnings that you got from your classroom discussion, what were this concept? Perhaps you can
Or what's
just...
your favorite topic?
Well, favorite topic and how did you apply it in real life?
One of the topics that was discussed, this goes way back in first year. It's the theory of realism.
Okay.
It struck me really well because I didn't know that this is how a realist works, and it's how I've been functioning since I was young. Now that I've been given this term, this concept, now I've also fully understood what kind of thinking, what house I've been thinking. The ideology that I possess. So basically, the theory of realism believes that whatever is happening, it's reality. So there's no there's room for different ideas to come into to practice, but you have to look at the reality and you have to balance it. You have to rationalize everything. So because of that, you can strategize what you're gonna do if there's a problem. You can rationalize. And
So you
don't
apply
have-
it into your
Yes.
decision-making process, kumbaga.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yes.
Sir, Ferdinand, this hearing no, from Aaron is very impressive. I'm sure this is part of now, you say, products of
Yes,
SPAG,
yes.
and we're excited for his future. So let's talk about career opportunities for foreign affairs graduates, for our public administration graduates. What are the career pathways, sir, that are available or that they may pursue in the future?
Well, for both foreign affairs and public administration, primarily they can think of the public or the government, for example. But he mentioned already that it's possible, not necessarily with the government, but the non-government organization. And these are possible places where they can utilize what they've learned from the School of Public Affairs and Governance.
When you are part of the public affairs and let's say public administration, sir, do you also need to pass some sort of board examination, similar with teachers, for nurses, for medical technologists? Do you have licensure examinations?
For public administration, no, there is none. As long as they are going to pass the civil service, if they would
Ayan,
like
Civil
to
Service
work,
Commission.
yes,
Ayan.
yes.
And then for the foreign affairs,
There is none. There is none.
There is.
There is.
We call
If you
it
would
the
like to have the
Foreign Service Officer
Services,
exam.
yes.
ayun, foreign service
Officer exam.
officer. So what is this also?
It's not really like the board exam or some PRC
Yeah.
thing, but people who want to take the diplomatic field need to pass this exam in order for them to be put into the Foreign Service program itself.
Okay.
It's one of the most difficult exams in the country, but people who pass will have guaranteed not only success, but they can be put into places, they can be assigned in the Home Office or the different foreign missions abroad by the
That's good.
Philippine government.
All right. So enroll na mo sa SPAG.
So yeah, before I actually ask Dr. Mangibin about the future plans and projects of ano, I'd like to ask Aaron first. What do you like most, and what don't you? What do you like most, and what do you hate most about? Let's be objective here, okay? About your course or about SPAG.
Like most and like least.
Like this.
In what I understand, our curriculum is very unique.
Yeah.
That's the best thing about our course. However, maybe the least I like about our course is that sometimes it's a bit too wordy, too theoretical. It's hard to.
Because we have
gather
philosophers here as our teachers. You have to be critical with whatever they are talking about.
And essentially, they are part of the preparations, right?
Yes, they're part of it, and it's part of their contradicting ideas. Sometimes have to clash, and it's for you to decide which to believe
Which
in.
is a good training ground, actually.
That's good to know, Aaron, that you are, how do you call this one, sharing this, because I'm sure our future spaggers, how do you call mga spaggers? Ako na nag-label, spaggers or
How is it?
Right now during
spagistas?
the
Spagians.
Spagyas. Maybe you
Spagis.
should come up with something na. You have the
Yeah.
yung sa...
For education.
Educados. Educados. So maybe-
Mascomista for
Mascomista.
mascom.
So maybe,
Spagis.
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 Kasi merong agis. Merong spagis. Okay. Anyway, talking about
Spagis.
preparations, Dr. Ferdy, what are also the future plans of the administration for SPAG? Are you going to open new academic programs? Do you have MOAs? Do you have MOUs with other institutes? Share to us.
Well, as at the moment, our ambassador, Corsino, is preparing the MOA with the DFA. And of course, our coordinator in public administration, Dr. Salve, is also preparing a MOA with the Senate. Because there are 5 public administration students who will be having also their internship, and there are 24
Wow. So-
foreign affairs students.
Wait, so these 4 public administration
Administration.
students will be interns at the House of Senate?
Yes, that's
Wow.
correct.
Congress.
Okay.
In Congress. We are
In
arranging
Congress. Okay.
the
These are 4th year students, sir.
Third year.
A 3rd year. As early as 3rd year, there's already an internship. And then for the foreign affairs students,
There are also third year, and there are 24 of them. And when we say MOA, when we have this with the DFA will be the one to assign the students, no, in different areas.
so is it possible that they will be assigned in Dumaguete, in Bacolod, in Davao, or just in NCR?
Well, as it was mentioned a while ago, that ambassador will not most probably have
A
them here.
preference.
Yes, so they will be working mostly in Manila. But it is also possible, as I discussed with the ambassador, for example, if there are students who are capable financially, they can also work or have an internship in United Nations
Abroad.
or NGO abroad.
Wow.
Yes.
Nice. Maybe you need some chaperones, sir.
We're free.
We're here to act as
All
chaperones.
expenses paid.
Okay, so grabe no, we are really having this internships, parang ano ba ito, authentic experience, no? A taste of their field, kumbaga.
Yes.
So aside from this, sir, what are the other programs that you are also planning to have?
Well, for the whole SPAG, we are planning to have our research forum for both
Wow.
faculty and students.
Do you have already a name for this, sir? for the forum?
This morning we have our faculty meeting, and we are still planning what would be the name, but we call it, for the meantime, Research Forum. Because,
Research Forum.
you know, for the accreditors, they were always asking. So maybe we can start with this as a kind of, initiative of the college, and then it can expand later on. And definitely, we would like to have also our own journal, SPAG journal.
SPAG journal. Or the Spagis journal.
Yeah.
They can adapt that name, Ron.
Whenever you say those words, Baguio's journal, what comes into my mind are cookbook, because spaghetti.
Spaghetti.
Well, I'm just hungry, Josh. But anyway, from this, listening from our conversation, I guess that some of our audience are very eager to learn and to enroll in the School of Public Affairs and
Yes.
Governance. Now, my question, Sir Mangibin, is that are we strand specific, or do we welcome grade 11 students, especially this is for
12.
the undergrad? Yeah, grade 12 students. Thank you for correcting, Josh. Do we welcome from students from STEAM, UMS, or ABM?
Yes, we are open to all different strands, and of course, we also observe the standard set by the department, let's say, of public administration and foreign affairs. They have the requirements, for example, in terms of grade, 85 above.
Ayun.
That would be a good start for one who would like to stay in the School of Public Affairs and Governance. And of course, we require them to have also essays.
Ayun.
Yes.
So, Aaron, if you were to diplomatically convince our senior high school students that are watching right now, not only from the Silliman University Senior High School, but all over the Philippines and perhaps the world, the
Rather.
universe rather. How would you diplomatically convince them to join the SPAG family?
If you want to talk, go to SPAG. You'll learn a lot. But if you don't, then don't.
As easy as that.
Yes. Right. Ron, you still have questions to our guests?
Yeah, I don't have any more questions, but perhaps we can have a conversation, behind the scene or behind the screen. Or
After
after
behind the cameras. Right. So, Aaron, to end our conversation tonight, and I have a separate question for Dr. Mangibin, but hypothetically, Aaron,
Yes.
President Bongbong Marcos phones you right now and offers you to be the Foreign Affairs Secretary.
Agad-agad, di pa nga nakagraduate.
Oo, kinontrata na. After May, you will be the,
Okay, sige.
hypothetically speaking lang, what would be your first policy? What would be your first call as a Foreign Affairs Secretary?
As a foreign service officer and also as the Secretary of Foreign Affairs, maybe my first job would be to completely revise the system in the home offices and the regional offices in the country.
Will you require going abroad to show yearbooks also?
No,
Just
that
kidding.
falls under the Bureau of Immigration.
So your policy would be to revise the system.
Maybe improve it because there's been a lot of complaints lately on the regional offices. That it's taking, but it's been doing great since the administration of President Aquino, and during the time of President Duterte, it has been further improved. Now, if I'm the one who's managing it, then I'd further improve it more.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Aaron. Dr. Mangibin, we are in this what we call VUCA world, no? Volatile. It's very uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. How do you prepare and how do you assure our future foreign affairs workers, at the same time public administrators, that they are really equipped and ready for this VUCA world?
Well, first of all, we have very competent faculty members, and the chairperson himself is a very competent one, an ambassador. So, in the revision of the syllabi, we have to look at also the different competencies that a 21st century student should possess. And understand that the program should always be revisited and revised so that it will be responsive to the need of our students.
Ayun. So, constantly update. Update and update. All right, thank you very much. On that note, daghang salamat, Dr. Ferdinand Mangibin, and of course, Aaron, a fourth-year BS Foreign Affairs student. Ron, we have now come to the last segment of the show. It's called #WTP, or Words to Ponder. What's the word for this episode, Ron?
Yeah, this word has been bugging me since the beginning of this conversation, and that word was virtue.
Virtue.
That a leader must be virtuous, because sometimes you just mentioned that word na VUCA, something like
Yeah.
that. VUCA world, volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. Well, I think despite of that time, the world has been VUCA ever since, no? And because of the technology's advancements, it has become more complex. And now, I'd like to remind all of us, not just our public administrators or leaders, that in this world, it's not just knowledge, it's not just the complexities, or it's not just our skills that let this world move forward, but the virtues that we have. And we must always revisit that for this world to really prosper, or for us to progress or develop, we must also need compassion.
Yes.
We need to reach out a hand to those people in need, no? Regardless of your profession, whether you will become a diplomat, a foreign affairs, or a janitor, regardless of your job, I think we must embody the virtues that will help us remain grounded.
True.
And that will help us also, help us discover more about ourselves. And when we discover more about ourselves, we discover our potential in helping other people as well.
Yun.
So be virtuous, regardless if you're a leader or just a follower. How about you, Josh? What's your word to ponder?
Sinabi mo na lahat, Ron.
Kaya nga
Kidding aside, it's also related to virtue, no? It's because when I was reviewing the profile of SPAG on our website, one word really captured me. It's conscience, no? It's a thought leader with a conscience, because conscience is our compass in life, right? So more or less, this also dictates much of our decision-making process, and this compass within us is also built by different experiences. Our trainings here at the university, the people that we meet, the experiences that we actually have, the challenges that we overcome. So at the same time, in this VUCA world that we've been talking about, this moral compass is also challenged. So I think in Silliman University, we are clear that our conscience is really always the true north, which is the Via Veritas Vita. So, daghang salamat for joining our episode tonight. May you find your moral compass, may you find your true north, and to God be the glory. Hey there, Sillimanians and friends of Silliman around the world! Daghang salamat for joining another episode of #Silliman. Continue to support our Facebook page. It's called #Silliman. Don't forget to like, share, and comment on your favorite episodes. And of course, we also have a YouTube channel. It's still called #Silliman. Don't forget to click the notification bell for you to be updated with our recent posts. See you there.
And of course, catch us at Field Products Channel 6 every Monday at 8 p.m. and replays will be shown every Tuesday before the noontime news and every Saturday after the noontime news. This has been Ronelyn from Vailoces-Not
And Joshua Soldivillo. Kita kits next week. Only here on
#Silliman.
Bye, everyone!